everyone. My name is Robbie, and I'm here to talk to you about why I chose to become an engineer. So if you would have asked me when I was a kid what I wanted to be when I grew up, I wouldn't have known the answer to that. I actually had no idea I wanted to be an engineer until after I was already in college. Looking back, though, I definitely can tell that's probably where I would have wound up. I was the kid that loved playing with Legos and Connects and building things out of those. And I was always taking things apart and putting them back together, like old radios and TVs and stuff, just to figure out if they could work and to see if I could take them apart and put them back together and they still work. If things like Raspberry Pis and Arduinos would have been around when I was a kid, I definitely would have been playing with them too. Unfortunately, the Arduino came out in 2005 and I graduated in high school in 2006. So I did pick it up, but it wasn't when I was a kid. So some of my favorite subjects in school were math and science, and my least favorite subjects in school were history and English. I think that's because history and English always seem like learning the same thing over and over again, and it never seemed to be new, just something repackaged slightly differently. But math and science, you was always learning new stuff. It was stuff you never heard before, and I always found that interesting that it was new. So by the time I got into college, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't actually end up declaring my major until a year after I had already finished, or a year after I had already started college. And by the time that I needed to declare my major, I hadn't narrowed down to engineering or computer science, but I didn't know which one. And engineering was made up as many fields. So there's like electrical engineering and aeronautical engineering and chemical engineering and petroleum engineering and all these different engineering fields. So I didn't know which one I wanted to be, but I also liked programming too. So I wanted to possibly go into computer science. What I ended up settling on was an electrical engineering degree, which is the engineers that design the electrical circuits and stuff that goes into all the devices. So like your computer and your cell phone and your TV, but they also design like the electrical systems and power distribution systems that you see inside buildings and stuff too. I was more interested on the electrical circuit side of things though. And I decided to do that as my bachelor's degree, and I decided to do a minor with that in computer science. And the way I saw that is you could get the hardware and the software side, both in one degree. So because I added on that minor though, it took me 5 years to finish my bachelor's degree instead of 4. And after I finished that, I decided to do a master's degree in computer engineering. That's an additional 2 years. And computer engineering is basically a degree that merges electrical and computer science. So what I did for my bachelor's, but merged into one degree and kind of goes on beyond that. So you can get both the hardware and software side. So if I had any advice that I would give on how to get through school, I would say that it's important to keep a social life and to make sure to take time for yourself, for your hobbies. So it's easy to get caught up in the grind. You're constantly busy studying for exams and doing homework, and it's easy to forget to take time to see your family and your friends and, you know, just to go out and have fun. And it's really important to do that, or else you're gonna get burnt out. And it's also important to take me time. So yes, you need to spend time with family and friends, but you also need to make sure to make time for your hobbies. So I always loved gaming, and I always loved building robots and programming the smarts for the robots to see if I could, you know, build something to do this specific thing. And in college, anytime I had free time, I was making sure, you know, I was still playing video games with my friends, or I was in my own lab at my house building robots and putting them together. So I didn't just focus on school. But you got to make sure that you focus on school enough that you're making the grades that you need to make. And any advice that I would give my younger self would be just to don't stress. It's very easy when you're in school to start stressing about everything. You're stressing about the exams you got to study for, and the first B or C that you get, you're going to stress about that and just eat yourself up over it. But it's important to remember that, you know, just as long as you're trying your best, it's all going to work out in the end. And don't stress the small things. You're going to waste time stressing about something you can't change. Um, so anyways, that is why I chose to be an engineer, and some advice that I would give anybody looking to go into the STEM fields. And I think if you do go into the STEM field, you'll really enjoy it. There's engineering and all the other STEM fields are amazing, rewarding experiences that you'll definitely love if you go into.